Yes, student, welcome to our today's lecture. In a series of drug acting on central nervous system, today we are going to see a point related to analgesic. Analgesic, there are two types of analgesic. One is called as narcotic analgesic and another called as a non-narcotic analgesic. Today we are going to see non-narcotic analgesic and one more point under this, that is a drugs acting as an anti-inflammatory analgesic, that is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, which is also called as NSAID. So let's start with our today's lecture, NSAIDs. So usually these NSAIDs, these are the class of the drugs which could be used as an analgesic antipyretic as well as sometimes as an anti-inflammatory drug. But compared to the morphine, they are weaker analgesic. And most important thing is that they do not produce any physical dependency. It has no abuse liability. So with this is a one of the very important parameter with respect to the non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs. And these non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs are, for example, in the market, best example is an aspirin. So this is a drug which are called as a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. So let us start with some definition like analgesic. Already we are know about is analgesic. What do you mean by antipyretic? What do you mean by anti-inflammatory? Analgesic, these are the drugs, agents which relieves the or suppresses the pain without affecting any degree of consciousness are called as analgesic. Antipyretics, which reduces elevated body temperature, are called as antipyretic. And anti-inflammatory means these are the agents which prevent the inflammation are known as anti-inflammatory drug. In market, we have a very good combination ibupara, that is nothing but ibuprofen and paracetamol, as well as the diclopara. This is also one of the best example, that is a diclofenac sodium, or sometimes indomethacin is also used. Diclofenac sodium and paracetamol is one of the famous combination which is used for the treatment of some inflammation or pain or some feverish condition. So let's start with this. What do you mean by this inflammation? First, we will see what do you mean by this inflammation. When our body supposed to be have inflammation, what is actually physiology? So inflammation is a non-specific defensive response of the body for the tissue damages. Whenever we are get exposed to certain condition, it produces inflammation. Like whenever we have any pathogenic attack, whenever we have any abrasion, whenever there is any chemical irritation or any disturbances of cell or extreme temperature, in this condition, the person giving a response, defensive response, that we call as an inflammation. So what are the characteristic sign of this inflammation? The character sign and symptom of inflammation is the part where we had an inflammation, there is a redness, as well as there is a pain. And if we observe, if we feel, if we touch the part where we have inflammation, we could feel that there is a heat and swelling. And it is a one of the body's non-specific resistance mechanism for the whenever we have some stimulation. For that stimulation, such type of mechanisms are get exposed. So this is what whenever we have any exposure of certain substances, what happened actually when we expose such any stimulation. So in this case, whenever we have such any stimulation or irritation, then we got or injury, the substances like histamine, kinines, prostaglandins and leukotrienes are get released at the place where we are get injured. This is the most important thing. The place where we get injured, these substances are get released. These substances are released. Histamine, kinine, prostaglandin and leukotrienes. These are get released. And they have a very important role in this area, in injured area. The substances get sensitized afferent. What do you mean by the afferent? That is conveying the sensation from inflammation from organ to the central nervous system. It convey the message from organ to the central nervous system that we call as an afferent. So these substances sensitize to the afferent nerve, afferent sensation. Why? Because whenever a brain get information, central nervous system get information that something is injured there, then and then only central nervous system will take care of that. So for the communication, this substances sensitize these afferent nerve endings, and this nerve endings gives one indication, that is a pain. One indication, that is a pain. So this is what one system where we could understand what happened. Whenever the tissue is get injured, at a place where the tissues are getting injured, the release of some substances like prostaglandin, histamine, leukotrienes, as well as the thrombokinase. As they are get released, they irritate nerve terminals. They gives irritation to the nerve terminals, and then there is a one condition arise that we call the pain. So this is what about the physiology of the pain, how the pains are get generated. But when such condition is get arise, along with that, there is one more additional condition that we call as a vasodilation. There is a vasodilation, and due to the vasodilation, there is an increase in permeability at the site where the injuries occur. At that time, there is a vasodilation. Due to the vasodilation, there is increase in vasodilation and increase in permeability of the site. Maximum amount of blood is get supplied flow the area where the damage is there, and water goes out. Due to increase in permeability, water goes out from this capillary and feel like feel like a swelling. That is a enlargement, that is we called as a swelling. So this is what about the release of some substances like prostaglandin, leukotriene, kinines. After releasing of these substances, these changes are occur. First is vasodilation, followed by increasing permeability. Due to increasing permeability, change or water comes out, and due to the vasodilation, blood flow increases to the injured area. So whenever this inflammation occur, at that point, few substances are get released. That is a prostaglandin, leukotrienes, and kinines. Prostaglandin, leukotrienes, and kinines. These are get synthesized from arachidonic acid by irritation of the tissue. Conversion of arachidonic acid to this prostaglandin, leukotriene, kinines. This conversion plays one of the very important role. The conversion is done by one enzyme. That enzyme is called as cyclooxygenase. That enzyme is called as cyclooxygenase. So the main cause is this enzyme. So this enzyme converts this arachidonic acid to these leukotrienes, these kinines, the prostaglandins. If cyclooxygenase is not available, then arachidonic acid will not convert to the prostaglandin, kinines, or leukotrienes. It will not convert to this mediator. If these substances are not released, there is no vasodilation. There is no increase in permeability. That is nothing but at the end, there is no swelling. There is no persist of the pains. Main role of this enzyme, cyclooxygenase. This cyclooxygenase, lipoxygenase play important role in body for conversion of arachidonic acid to the prostaglandin, kinins, and leukotrienes. And that's why again the next further procedure is okay. For the remembrance or for the clue, we could remember one thing, remember a famous movie, and with respect to that famous movie, we can remember easily the conversion of this. But you know this is the guy, the people we call as the Parsha, and when a Parsha is there, whenever Archie is there. So Archie, that indicating arachidonic acid, and from Archie, arachidonic acid, Parsha, that is indicating about the prostaglandins. So prostaglandin and arachidonic, they are connected with each other, and this connection is get released in inflammation, blasting. Likewise, we can remember this. So this is what the mechanism of inflammation. So here we can say that what is the main cause of inflammation? There is a coming out of water from blood, that is swelling. Why coming out of blood from water? Because of the change in permeability. Why change in permeability? Because an increase in the blood flow because of the some mediators. Why mediators are get released? Because of are get converted. Who convert this? Cyclooxygenase, lipoxygenase converting. From whom it is get converted? From arachidonic acid. So main mediator is cyclooxygenase. So if cyclooxygenase is get blocked, there is no conversion of arachidonic acid to any mediator. This is the main. So if we get realized, then very easy for understanding the mechanism action of the all anti-inflammatory drugs. So here are the some classification of some NSAIDs, conventional NSAIDs and non-narcotic analgesic. NSAIDs, they are also called as they are selectively, they are again bifurcated into the selectivity upon COX cyclooxygenase, which is also called as COX, cyclooxygenase 1 or cyclooxygenase 2. So they are non-selective. This is in a class who are non-selective. So non-selective COX inhibitor are salicylate, example is aspirin, pyrazolone derivative, phenylbutazone, indole derivative, that is endomethacin, propionic acid derivative, ibuprofen, anthranilic acid derivative, mefenamic acid, aryl acetic acid derivative, diclofenac sodium or cyclofenac sodium, oxygum derivative, that is the pyroxygum, pyrrolopyrrole derivatives, that is the ketorolac. All these are the examples, or all these are the molecules which are nowadays available in the market and are using for the treatment of different analgesics as well as the inflammatory conditions. Again, peripheral preferentially COX-2 inhibitors. Preferentially COX-2 inhibitor are nimesulide and methoxycam. These are the two who are selective COX-2. Preferentially COX-2. Third one is a selective COX-2 inhibitor, that is a celecoxib and rofecoxib. But nowadays rofecoxib is totally banned. It is not used by anywhere in medical treatment. Next one is the analgesic antipyretic with poor anti-inflammatory action. The examples are para-aminophenol derivative. Example is paracetamol. Example is analgesic antipyretic. But nowadays we are using drug as an antipyretic. Nowadays we are using as an analgesic antipyretic. Somewhat they have very poor anti-inflammatory activity. Pyrazolone derivative, that is a metamizole, yeah, propifenazole, and benzoxycane derivative, that is a nifopam. So these are this is a classification of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So next point is, what is the mechanism of action of an NSAID? Already we have discussed it. It's very simple. Inflammation is a response mediated through the one mediator that we call as a prostaglandin. That is a prostaglandin. So why prostaglandin is given? Prostaglandins are get produced from where? Archie, that is the arachidonic acid. Who will prepare it? It is get prepared by the enzyme cyclooxygenase. So what we should do? Cyclooxygenase is exist in the body in two form. That is cyclooxygenase 1, COX-1 and COX-2. In that, COX-1 deals with the physiological function. COX-1 is deals with the physiological function. Physiological functions mean release of or synthesis of some protective layer, like in a stomach. In our stomach, the acid is there, but acid can't hurt the stomach. Why? Because there is a protective layer in the stomach. So it's a protective layer. So this protective layer is prepared by the COX-1 cyclooxygenase 1 enzyme. Whatever the prostaglandin produced by COX-1, it is helpful for the protection purpose, preparing a layer in our body. While the prostaglandin prepared by COX-2 is associated with the inflammation. So we are interested in inhibiting this COX-2. We are interested in inhibiting this COX-2. Once we inhibit this COX-2 enzyme, definitely the prostaglandin which is get prepared is not available for the inflammation purpose. So thus we in a classification also we have not seen that is a COX-1 selective. We are looked regarding the COX-2 selective. Why COX-2? Because COX-2 is associated with the inflammatory. So this is the mechanism of action of this non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Now, about the analgesic, prostaglandin induces the pain, synthesizing at the nerve ending for the pains, and NSAID, that is the COX inhibitor enzymes, reduces the prostaglandin synthesis. And as there is a less prostaglandin is available, so along with this NSAID, inflammation as well as the pains are also get subsided, are effective. So in this manner, it is also work against the analgesic. The most important mechanism of anti-inflammatory action of NSAID is inhibition of prostaglandin synthesis at the site of injury. So that is the most important thing. And whenever this prostaglandin is get avoided, definitely there is a no formation of the inflammation. So anti-inflammatory potency of the different compounds are corresponding with the potency of inhibit the COX-2 enzyme. So how much ability of this COX-2 inhibition is there, that much ability to subside the inflammation. So inflammation action or inflammation effect is associated with the effective against how much quantity of COX is get inhibited by this drug. As well as some pyrogens and other conditions, prostaglandin is also get synthesized by some pyrogens and other some conditions, and in that cases also it work as an antipyretic. The pyrogen and other condition induces the prostaglandin synthesis in the hypothalamus, which raises the temperature than the set point. So NSAID reduce the body temperature in fever, though it is not prostaglandin mediated. This do not produce the hypothermia in normal patient, one of the very important thing, as well as the effect is achieved by CNS depressant action in which hypothalamus thermostat is the set as a normal point. This is one of the very important thing. Thus NSAID reduces the hypothalamic threshold to normal temperature. That is the most important thing. So very commonly used drug as a non-NSAID is a salicylate. It's a salicylic acid salicylate. Aspirin is acetyl salicylic acid. So this acetyl salicylic acid can be possible have a poisoning. So in this chapter, what is the important point is the classification of NSAIDs, and next one of the important thing is the poisoning of salicylate. So how salicylate is get poisoned and how the salicylates are get treated, salicylic poisons are get treated. So let's see. So definitely first point, as we already discussed regarding the poisoning, only few things that we have to check. What is the dose, that is lethal fatal dose. Second one is the what are the possible symptoms. Next one is the treatment, and last one is an antidote. So in this four manner we could treat the poisoning. So what is the fatal dose of this poisoning? It is more common in children, and fatal dose in adult is near about 15 to 30 grams, but considerably very lower in children. So 50 to 30 gram is a fatal dose for the poisoning. So once there is a poisoning, then what are the symptoms for the salicylate poisoning? So very common, as it is an acidic acid, then definitely there is a little bit some conditions like vomiting, dehydration. Because of dehydration and because of vomiting, there is an electrolyte imbalance. It is dependent upon each other. Why electrolyte imbalance? Because of the vomiting and because of the dehydration. Loss of electrolytes are there. So definitely it is a loss of the, related to the electrolyte imbalance, loss of electrolytes. Then acidic breathing, hyper or hypoglycemia, decrease in blood glucose level. There is a possibility of increase in bleeding, that is called as hemorrhage. Patient is totally restlessness, delirium, hallucination, hyperpyrexia. As patient may get excited, there might be a convulsion or sometimes coma and death due to the respiratory failure or cardiovascular collapse. So this is the reason why the patient is showing the symptoms. The patient showing symptoms. What? That particularly is acidic in nature. It's acetyl salicylic acid. It's acidic in nature. So due to acidity, This some cases it could get observed. Next, what could be the line of treatment for that? If this is there, what could be line of treatment? Already we have discussed like this, if the patient is administered the drug by orally, then remove the unabsorbed drug, remove the unabsorbed poison from stomach. So for that purpose, one thing that is a gastric leavage. So first thing, whenever there is any poisoning, one point we can add here as an Brahmastra, that is a promote for hospitalization, gives emergency for hospitalization, fast as the hospitalization. That is the first one. Second one, gastric leavage to eliminate unabsorbed poison from the stomach. Third one is intravenous fluids are administered to correct dehydration. Because of the vomiting and dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, there is a dilemmas, hallucination, yeah, stupor like this. So first we try to maintain the hydration, that is a fluid. Next one is external cooling with cold alcohol is carried out to reduce the temperature. Vitamin K and blood transfusion are administered to prevent or to treat hemorrhage. You treat hemorrhage because its coagulation is not possible, or sometimes coagulation is not occur. That's why vitamin K we could be prefer for proper coagulation. And if there is a tremendous loss of any or heavy loss of the blood hemorrhage, then we need to provide the blood transfusion and to prevent the complications and the shock. Metabolic acidosis is corrected by administration of sodium bicarbonate. That I told you that this drug is acid in nature. So there is a possibility of increase in acidity, increase in acidosis, particularly not acidity, it's an acidosis, increase in acidosis, metabolic acidosis in our body. So how will you manage? Definitely acid we can counter it with a base, the base that is a sodium bicarbonate. So try to administer the sodium bicarbonate. So this sodium bicarbonate is also considered as an antidote for this treatment. There is no any specific antidote recommended for this salicylate poisoning, but here sodium bicarbonate could be preferred. Salicylate excretion can be enhanced by definitely alkalinization of the urine by increasing the urine output, and intravenous administration of the 2% of sodium bicarbonate at the rate of about 2 liters per hour, effective use of effective for the elimination of salicylate from the body. And sometimes if it is not covered by this, then we need to go for sometimes hemodialysis. So this is what about the our chapter, that is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. What is the non-steroidal inflammatory drug? What are the different parameters responsible for inflammation? Arachidonic acid, cyclooxygenase, then prostaglandin, leukotrienes, kinines, vasodilation, increasing permeability, change in permeability, water flow, swelling, pains, likewise. Cyclooxygenase are of two types, COX-1 and COX-2. COX-1 is a very beneficial for us. COX-2 is responsible for prostaglandin, which are creating inflammation. And prostaglandin prepared from COX-1, it is for the protective purpose. So this is what the basic things that we had seen with the inflammation. And last point we had seen, that is a poisoning of salicylate. So what is the dose for the salicylate poisoning? It's a 50 to 30 grams. Next one is what are the possible symptoms? Vomiting, nausea, dehydration, hallucination, then coma, respiratory failure, cardiovascular failure, metabolic acidosis. These such kinds of the symptoms are observed in that treatment, in the symptoms. And if the symptoms are there, then what we could do? These are the some points, that is hospitalization, gastric leavage, correct the dehydration, try to maintain the temperature, use the vitamin K for the hemorrhage or loss of the any blood transfusion needed, metabolic acidosis, and one more for the supportive treatment, symptomatic relief, that is for the treatment of the metabolic acidosis, that is a 2% sodium bicarbonate would be preferred. And if it is not covered by this, then we could go for the hemodialysis. So this is what about the salicylate poisoning, and this is a chapter non-steroidal antiinflammatory. So if anything is there, let me know. I would like to clear you as much as possible. Thanks for listening me. Thank you very much. Thank you.